Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the hopefully elect of Israel. You Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indian, and Haitians. Gotta give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well. And a sincere salutation to all the Ark pushing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, waking up the hopeful elect. Shalom to the Akwaf who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah, coming to another lesson of truth, fact, faith, and edification. And this is a video, and the title is Iran says Israel will be destroyed in half an hour if U.S. strikes, but will Israel strike first? So this is just another rumors of wars, and what we have to understand is before World War III kicks off, the RFID microchip have to be pushed. So understanding these times of wars and rumors of wars, and understanding 1 Thessalonians, and it's also in Ezekiel, the 7th chapter, about them screaming out peace and safety. Right now, what you got, Jared Kushner and Trump, they're trying to push this peace agreement, this peace plan. So that's a part of prophecy as well. And what they're trying to do is they're setting up all these different rumors of wars so they can push this peace agreement. What comes between what comes with the peace agreement? One world government, one world order, one world currency, one world religion. See, their agenda is to push this new world order, man. This one world religion, one world currency. So these wars and rumors of wars, mostly for the most part right now, is rumors of wars. You know, a little bit of back and forth, warring a little bit, but this is really for them to push the RFID microchip, this one world currency. That's what this whole thing is about, man. It's for them to push the whole deal of this media propaganda is to establish missiles to fight against Yahweh Shai. Okay, that's the end game. Yahweh Shai setting them up to have their missiles ready to go for World War III. But before that happens, they have to push the RFID microchip. And they're going to scream peace and safety. And that's what Trump and Jared Kushner trying to do now. So them using these different wars and saying Iran was the ones that bombed the Japanese ship and all this back and forth through the media with their lies is about them establishing a peace agreement so they can bring the RFID microchip. So Lord's willing, be edifying.
Everyone, it's Dina Calamity here, and for this next broadcast, I do have breaking news in regards to Iran. It is being reported by Reuters, as well as many other sources, that Iran has breached the uranium stockpile limit set by the nuclear deal. And some are asking the question, will this lead Israel and Iran to war? Iran had announced on Monday it had amassed more low-enriched uranium than permitted under its 2015 deal with major powers. Its first major step in violation of the deal since the United States pulled out of it more than a year ago. The UN nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, which monitors Iran's nuclear program under the deal, confirmed in Vienna that Iran had breached the limit. The step could have far-reaching consequences for diplomacy at a time when European countries are trying to pull the United States and Iran back from the brink of war. The Europeans, who opposed last year's decision by President Trump to abandon the nuclear deal signed under his predecessor. Barack Obama had pleaded with Iran to keep within its perimeters. Iran has said it aims to do so, but cannot do so indefinitely, as long as sanctions imposed by Trump have deprived it of the benefits it was meant to receive in return for accepting curbs on its nuclear program under the deal. Iran's foreign minister had said that Iran had passed the threshold, exactly as it had warned it would. He said, "We have said very transparently what we will do." The move is a test of European diplomacy after French, British, and German officials had promised a strong diplomatic response if Iran fundamentally breached the deal. Prime Minister Theresa May's office said Britain was urgently considering its next moves, along with its partners, and urged Iran to reverse the step. Her Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt said he was deeply worried by Iran's announcement. A European diplomat told Reuters there was a mechanism under the agreement to deal with any inconsistencies, and it would be up to Joint Commission of Signatories to decide the next steps. And the AP is reporting that Russia is blaming the United States for pushing Iran to break the deal. A senior Russian diplomat says the U.S. sanctions have provoked Iran's move to break the limits set on its uranium stockpiles. Russia's deputy foreign minister notes that Iran had warned of its move in advance. He urged all parties to avoid escalation, saying that Iran's move causes regret, but we shouldn't be over-dramatized. He also said the development is a natural result of the United States' maximum pressure campaign, adding that Iran is facing unprecedented and unthinkable U.S. sanctions, including an oil trade embargo, which are an attempt to strangle the country. And Reuters is also reporting that according to the semi-official Mir News Agency, a senior Iranian MP has stated that if the United States attacks us, only half an hour will remain of Israel's lifespan, with Iran's threats and breaching the limit on its stockpile of low-enriched uranium. Will this lead Israel to strike Iran? According to the Jerusalem Post, there is still a preference in most circles for a negotiated outcome, but now calls for a discussion of preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear facilities will get louder. The Jerusalem Post has followed differing points of view within the Israel defense establishment, and on this issue, there are fundamentally two major camps. One camp is not only committed to diplomacy, but has always believed that attacking Iran's nuclear facilities is a massive risk that could lead to regional war, including tens of thousands of Hezbollah rockets raining down on Israel home front. Those in this camp still sign off on Israel carrying out a preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear facilities if it has already enriched enough uranium for a bomb and is close to being able to deploy one. But broadly speaking, they oppose an attack before that final point. They also oppose too much public discussion of an Israeli attack before that final point, as they believe too much sword-waving harms chances of diplomacy and makes the Trump administration feel it does not have an obligation to carry out the attack. However, the second camp prefers that the Trump administration carry out a preemptive strike if it becomes necessary, and cringes at the idea of Israel going at it alone, unless there really is no other choice. This camp takes the threat from Hezbollah and regional war with Iran seriously, but overall, they believe Israel's military and deterrence are so strong that Israel could order a surgical strike on the Islamic Republic's nuclear facilities and likely avoid a major conflict from Iran's proxies. This camp believes that the Trump administration has lost respect in the eyes of the Iranians, and that therefore only a clear threat from Israel might pressure them to be ready to compromise in the nuclear standoff. Finally, this camp appears ready to order a preemptive strike earlier, possibly before Iran has enough enriched uranium for a bomb, even if it cannot yet deliver the explosive material. And just last night, Israeli jets targeted Iranian-linked military bases from Lebanese airspace. According to Syrian state media, 4 civilians were killed and 21 injured in Israeli missile strikes near the Syrian cities of Damascus and Homs. Israel has refused to comment on the strikes, but has previously said it will not allow Iran to entrench itself in Syria. The facilities hit were linked to Iranian forces, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. A base hosting the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and a research facility was also struck. Prior to this intervention, Republican Senator and key Trump ally Lindsey Graham told CBS News the most likely war would be between Israel and Iran. He said Israel cannot tolerate a nuclear-armed Iran. The world should not tolerate a nuclear-armed Iran, and he urged President Trump to prepare to send the strongest signal possible to Iran once the government fulfills its threat to breach the limits on uranium supply. Graham also added that it cannot be tolerated. The Republican claimed the recent moves by Iran will place Iran on a pathway to a nuclear bomb, something that could pose a national security threat to both the U.S. and Israel. He warned that a full-blown war could break out between Israel and Iran if Iran restarted its nuclear program. Could potentially lead to a very dangerous situation between Israel and Iran, and maybe even the United States, because we already see the tensions between the U.S. and Iran. And we know that Israel is striking Iran in Syria, but the question is, will Israel strike Iran directly now? Now, hopefully not, but I guess only time will tell, and I will definitely continue to keep you updated. However, I would like to switch gears and talk about one last development that has occurred over the weekend. Apparently, President Trump has made history by crossing over into North Korea. After briefly crossing into the North Korean territory, the two leaders offered some thoughts on the historic moment. President Trump stated that it's a great honor to be here, a great honor, adding that a lot of really positive things are happening, and there is a tremendous positivity. The U.S. President also hailed his great friendship with Kim, noting that we met, we liked each other from day one, and that was very important. Kim, for his part, argued that by crossing the DMZ, Trump had demonstrated his desire to open a new future regarding North Korea. The surprise gathering came after Trump invited Kim on Twitter to have a brief meeting. The invitation came as the U.S. President attended a G20 summit in Japan, meaning that only a short journey was required. He is the first ever sitting U.S. head of state to set foot on North Korean soil. Two former presidents, Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton, have visited the country, but only after they had left office. It goes on finally to report the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump agreed at their meeting on Sunday to push forward dialogue for making a new breakthrough in the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. The KCNA news agency stated that the top leaders of the two countries agreed to keep in close touch in the future to resume and push forward productive dialogues for making a new breakthrough in the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and the bilateral relations. So it looks like for now, talks are back on, but we shall wait to see if North Korea will truly denuclearize, and I will definitely continue to follow this report and bring you updates. However, I'd love to hear from all.
Hey, and I was just watching the news this morning when I got off work, and Trump said, it's on CNN, which they so full of bull, you can't really trust none of CNN. But anyway, Trump said that Iran is playing with fire. Okay? Trump said Iran is playing with fire. Now when you look at what happened with Trump and Kim Jong-un last year, he said that North Korea was playing with fire. Okay? So these devils being proud, the pride of their heart had to see them, man. Because Trump said the same thing to Iran that he said about North Korea's Kim Jong-un, man. Talking about Iran playing with fire. You don't understand, man, the prophecy of these scriptures. Because if they did, which it's all the spirit of the Lord, you know, it's all the spirit of Yahweh Shah that's doing this. But the whole understanding of what they're doing is they're trying to push The RFID microchip, man. They trying to push this one world currency, but the people don't understand what's going on. So what they doing is deceiving the people through these rumors of wars, man. So when it comes, and when they tell you that, hey, this is the only way to take the RFID microchip, is the only way to make sure things is going to be, everybody's going to be on one accord. Because what they got going on in the world right now is this whole movement about love everybody. Everybody is equal. So what they're doing is pushing this madness. So when they come to you and tell you that you have to take the RFID microchip, you're going to take it. Because this is the New World Agenda, and we all should be one. Same thing Antiochus did when he said that all the people, that he set a decree that everybody should be as one. Same thing happened with the Tower of Babel. These things is not going to play out, man, because the Lord is a separatist. But their whole duty of what they're doing with these wars, rumors of wars, is so they can push the RFID microchip, that one world currency. But what you see is a lot of mayhem going on, a lot of madness is going on.
From the national headquarters of RT America, our nation's capital. Hello again, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez. So, tonight, our country, the United States of America, is waving the white flag in its ongoing trade war with China. After months of trying to show China who's really the boss, this morning we found out. And the boss is China. Look, in any negotiation, if you come on too strong, the other side can simply say, fine, we're going to walk away. And we're taking all of our chips with us. We're done, period. That's kind of what China did, right? So what China was really saying is, we can wait this out. We can wait this out as long as you want. But actually, you know what China did? They did one bet. It went out and it signed a very public deal with Russia and about 5 other nations. You saw us report this right here. And we told you what that, when it happened, might lead to, right? So while Mr. Trump was going around telling everybody in the world to stay away from doing any business with Huawei, Huawei sales actually seemed to be booming. Especially in the area of 5G technology, which we also reported on right here earlier last week. And then there's this. And then there's this. Stay with me here. Here at home, while all this was going on, U.S. companies were screaming bloody hell as they discovered that not doing business with China would cut into their revenues, some by as much as 40%. So then, on Wall Street, large cap internet and chip stocks started to suddenly go down. They started to decline, right, in the midst of all this stuff. And so did investment banks, who had some big-time exposure in China. So everybody seemed to be getting the message, right, except Trump and the U.S. media. All throughout this. Remember, we were reporting on all of this as it was going down, step by step. But this morning, fresh off of his visit with world leaders in Osaka, all of whom were either critical or enjoying the U.S.'s economic freefall during all of this, the President of the United States capitulated and seemed to call the whole thing off. Mr. Trump, who campaigned on getting tough on China and was actually satirized doing so on programs like Saturday Night Live, remember Dinah, is now retreating in 2 ways, really. He's calling off the restrictions on companies who do business with China, and he's also blocking any further restrictions, including those that White House insiders had told reporters were forthcoming. However, this momentous economic victory for China is not exactly the headline that you would expect to be seeing all over the United States. In fact, I got to tell you, it's hardly being covered. What is making headlines, in fact, is the embarrassment that Beijing must be feeling from these pictures that have been coming out of Hong Kong today. Have you seen this? Let's go to the video.
Now this is going on in Hong Kong now. This is uproars of the people. Okay? Uproars of the people. Look at this, man. Uproars of the people, man. Riots. It's all prophecy, man. So you got the Yellow Vest movement that's going on over there in what is it, Paris?
This is really a sea of protesters continuing to battle it out with police as it only intensified throughout the day. And they seem to suggest that they prefer to go back to the old ways and want China's extradition policy officially revised. But, I want to switch to another picture now.
This is all from trade wars, man.
For Beijing to swallow is watching this. Here.
Look at these, look at these, Jack. Look at these.
Actually breaking into the Parliament building. And they actually got in. See some of them getting inside the building. This is them inside the Parliament. Can you imagine? And then they went in and they wrote graffiti and they defaced it with scribblings. They did eventually leave as police asked them to do so, threatening to use tear gas. But can you imagine what would have happened if they would have held their ground, creating what would have been an international showdown in Beijing, saying there in Hong Kong at the Parliament, we're not leaving? Good gosh. What a day, huh? What a weekend.
Look at these heathens, man.
So here's what we're going to bring you tonight. What's next for the Trump administration and the United States after this seeming capitulation? Will they try and spin it as another win and say anyone who says different is just fake news? Or will they point to the impromptu meeting with Kim Jong-un and announce that that's the real story? And how will China's Xi Jinping deal with the embarrassment in Hong Kong? And what's it say about his leadership right now? A lot going on. I mean, a lot to drill down on. And we've got it all covered for you. This is the News with Rick Sanchez, where we believe with passion that it is time to do news again.
Hey, man, that's what's popping off, man. Okay? You see what's going on in China, man. Hey, man, people is tired of these North American Edomites, man. People is sick of these Edomites, man. Okay? These Edomites have destroyed the earth, man. They have destroyed the earth, man. This is Jeremiah 51 and verse 25. Matter of fact, I'm starting at 24. Jeremiah 51 and 24. And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of the Chaldeans all that evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith the Lord. So everything that these Edomites have done to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American, West Indian, Haitians, it shall fall upon their head, man. Verse 25, behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord Yahweh, which destroyeth all the earth. And man, this specifics telling you who's destroying the earth, man. Who's destroying the earth, man? Job 9:24 said the earth was given to the hand of the wicked. He covered the face of the judges. If not, wherein who is he, man? These Edomites, these so-called white peoples, control the entire planet, man. And they are destroying the earth. Again, Jeremiah 51, verse 25. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord Yahweh, which destroyeth all the earth, and I will stretch out my hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, which is their habitation, living in caves, okay, skyscrapers, the cave dwellers, the Caucasians, and will make thee a burnt mountain, okay? He will make thee a burnt mountain, man. He will make thee a burnt kingdom, a burnt government, a burnt rulership. Your rulership is finna come to naught, man. Isaiah 47:1 said, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughters of Babylon, man. You Edomites. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord Yahweh, which destroyeth all the earth. Okay? The Lord said he will make thee a burnt mountain, man. So you go to Revelation, chapter 11, 18, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged. and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, which is Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. Who's destroying the earth? The so-called white man. You Edomites. You red Hebrew Edomites, man. You are destroying the earth.
Democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Tom Harmon here with you back home in Portland, Oregon, in our studio here, and so glad to be back home here with Sean and Nate and Joyce and Louise, and then out there in the world, Sue and Nigel and everybody else. It's great to be back. So a lot that we're going to cover today, and a lot that I'd like to involve you in the conversation about. We have no guests. I'm just going to be going off on riffs and rants and whatnot all day long. I want to start out with this question. When the economy crashes, and we just entered the longest expansionary phase in the history of the United States, literally going back to the George Washington administration. And I've been saying since 2016, I was predicting that the economy would crash in 2016, and it turns out that 2016 was, in fact, the year that the economy stopped growing, except for debt. And so what's been happening since 2016, 3 years now, and really in some ways since 2015, maybe 4 years, is that the only growth that's happening in the economy has been happening because either government is borrowing money. Trump borrowed $1.5 trillion, for example. We're at $22 trillion our national debt now, which is pretty huge. It's about the same size as our annual GDP, maybe even a little larger. Number one, government borrowing. Number two, corporate borrowing. Corporate borrowing is at an all-time high. And number three, individual borrowing, or family borrowing, which is at an all-time high. And all of these numbers now, as a percentage of the economy, you can't compare dollars to dollars, but basically relative to where we were in 1929, the last time there was a major crash, we hit 1929 style numbers about 2 years ago, and we are now in the overshoot of that.
So the debt is over $222 trillion, man. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 6. Should not all these take up a parable against him? Yeah, man. Even his own people, the Edomites. Okay? Psalm 64 and 8. They shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. Should not all these take up a parable against him? So you got the elect taking up this parable against the Edomites too, man. Okay? Because the Lord said he would destroy them by the spirit of his mouth, which is his prophets, and the brightness of his coming. But first and foremost, because Amos 3 and 7 say what? Sure, the Lord will do nothing but he reveal his secret to his prophets, man. To his servants, the prophets. So, all these, you got the elect, the hopefully elect, that's taking this parable, man. And you got Edomites. And you got heathen nations with their news medias that's bringing out, showing you how these Edomites is destroying the entire planet. So, Habakkuk 2 and verse 6. Should not all these take up a parable against him, and a tongue to proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that laden himself with thick clay. So what you see right here, Tom Hartman is telling you, man, that North America is in debt, man. And they is not going to come out of it, okay? They is in debt, man. And matter of fact, I'm going to run it back.
Home in Portland, Oregon, in our studio here, and so glad to be back home here with Sean and Nate and Joyce and Louise, and then out there in the world, Sue and Nigel and everybody else. It's great to be back. So a lot that we're going to cover today, and a lot that I'd like to involve you in the conversation about. We have no guests. I'm just going to be going off on riffs and rants and whatnot all day long. I want to start out with this question. When the economy crashes, and we just entered the longest expansionary phase in the history of the United States, literally going back to the George Washington administration. And I've been saying since 2016, I was predicting that the economy would crash in 2016, and it turns out that 2016 was, in fact, the year that the economy stopped growing, except for debt. And so what's been happening since 2016, 3 years now, and really in some ways since 2015, maybe 4 years, is that the only growth that's happening in the economy has been happening because either government is borrowing money. Trump borrowed $1.5 trillion, for example. We're at $22 trillion in our national debt now, which is pretty huge. It's about the same size as our annual GDP, maybe even a little larger. Number one, government borrowing. Number two, corporate borrowing. Corporate borrowing is at an all-time high. And number three, individual borrowing, or family borrowing, which is at an all-time high. And all of these numbers now, as a percentage of the economy, you can't compare dollars to dollars, but basically relative to where we were in 1929, the last time there was a major crash, we hit 1929 style numbers about 2 years ago, and we are now in the overshoot of that. And, this isn't just some speculative question. And so that's my first question is, do you think that America is going to move to the hard right when the economy crashes? Are we going to move to the FDR left, or are we going to move to the corporate oligarchy middle? The thing that we didn't have in the 1930s, which brought us FDR progressivism, FDR literally saying the government will be the employer of last resort. If you can't get a job, the government will provide you with a job. If you lose your job, the government will provide you with health insurance, with unemployment insurance. If you are old and poor, this is Social Security, of course, the government will provide you with a stipend on which you can live. Basically, FDR, I think, sometimes referred to it as a pension, essentially, because everybody understood what a pension was. So what we didn't have then that we do have now is a corporate media that persists in putting its thumb on the scale. It's just constantly that wants to see politics done as sports and doesn't really want any kind of a serious discussion about issues. It's, did Kamala Harris knock Joe Biden upside the head? Well, what does that have to do with the issues? Right? Let's talk about the issues. She raised the issue of busing. He raised the issue of busing. So let's have a conversation about race in America. No, the media doesn't want to do that. Although Fareed Zakaria's program on CNN last night, and I'm sorry, I only missed the last part of it because I just got back, flying back from Minnesota. But the last 15, 20 minutes of it was pretty shocking. And, did you see Fareed Zakaria's show? I'm curious your thoughts on that. But frankly, the thing that concerns me is that, we had an FDR left in the United States from 1932 through the end of the Johnson administration. And in a way, Jimmy Carter, the Jimmy Carter presidency was still singing the songs of Franklin Roosevelt and the New Deal and the Great Society. Although in the last 2 years of his presidency, he did start some massive deregulation in response to high inflation and a soft economy. I think he thought that this might work. It had been sold for years and years and years by the right-wing think tanks. But now we have this kind of corporate oligarchy. Well, we do have a corporate oligarchy. This was brought to us by the Supreme Court, the Buckley decision in '76, the Bellotti decision in '78, Citizens United in 2010, McCutcheon in 2013, as I recall. And what all of these decisions basically did was say, dark money can just pour into our politics, whether it's lobbying, whether it's campaigning specifically for a candidate, whether it's going after ballot issues. For example, last year, or 2 years ago rather, Washington State had a carbon tax on their ballot. It had widespread support across the state. When I first got on the ballot, it was a very modest carbon tax. It wasn't going to affect individuals all that much, and in fact, it would have recycled money back to individuals. But then the fossil fuel industry came in and spent tens of millions of dollars. Virtually, I could not watch a program on television. Being here in Portland, we're in both the Portland and the Vancouver, Washington State markets. And Vancouver's, one of the major cities, one of the probably 5 or 6 major cities in Washington State. And so we were seeing, we see the ads that are directed at Washington State here in Portland. And every single show had this former Republican Secretary of State who looked like Mr. Rogers and talked like Mr. Rogers. He seems like such a nice guy. And he never identified himself as a Republican. He said, I'm the former Secretary of State. And I just wanted to tell you that this carbon tax will destroy our economy. It'll destroy you. It'll destroy the American middle class. It's going to ruin the economy. These are not his exact quotes, but this was the essence of what he was saying. And sure enough, after the fossil fuel industry spent tens of millions of dollars on this thing, and the people who wanted the carbon tax were just average people. They didn't have money to buy for advertising. The carbon tax went down in flames. And then you see Chuck Todd, interviewing Jay Inslee, who was the governor of Washington State at the time, saying, well, your carbon tax in Washington State didn't work out, and that's the state you run. If you couldn't do it in your own state, how can you do it anywhere else? Without pointing out that it was millions and millions and millions, basically a wall-to-wall media blitz by the fossil fuel industry in Washington State that took this thing down. Well, Chuck Todd's never going to point that out, and neither is anybody else in the media. So might we end up with kind of a corporate middle, which is sort of what we had during the last 2 Democratic presidential administrations? Or are we going to go hard right like we did with Reagan and like we did with Bush and Trump? I guess the middle also would be the George Herbert Walker Bush administration. He actually raised taxes and did cap and trade to get rid of acid rain. I mean, George Bush the elder was an old-fashioned Republican. The last of them, they're gone. Which is sort of like the new, the 1992 version of the New Democrats and the New Democratic Coalition right now. And the Blue Dogs. I mean, you've got these Blue Dog Democrats who are really increasing the tail that wags the Democratic Party. And they're all pushing for basically corporate oligarchy.
Hey, so let me tell you something, man. North America is finished, man. Okay? So North America's finna burn. And its economy is collapsing, man. These devils are in so much debt with the elite bank owners, man. They can't even see, man. Okay? North America is in debt, man. The Lord is bringing this place down fast, but in a slow, steady pace, man. North America is done, man. For all you people that think this devil Trump is going to make America great again, you are fools, man. You have been deceived. Okay? Again, Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him? Yeah. And it tells a proverb against him and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. And that's what we telling you, man, week in and week out. Day in and day out, man, on the unicorn, which is the internet, and on the highways and byways. Woe to you, Edomites, that increase that which is not yours, man. How long, and to him that laden himself with thick clay. You have laden yourself with thick clay, meaning debt. Look it up, man. You have laden yourself with thick clay, meaning thick death, man. Debt. You are in debt. They keep hollering about 22 trillion on the debt clock. No, man. It's over $222 trillion, man. It could be more than that, man. These Edomites lie so much, you can't believe nothing they say, man. Okay, these devils is in debt, man. So you think your economy is booming? Like Trump love lying, man, to the media. The economy is good. No, it's not, man. This economy is done, man. And your gold and silver will not save you. Your bitcoins will not save you, man. This is Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 35. And it reads, a sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith the Lord, which is the missiles, and the chariots, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, which is Babylon the Great, Mystery Babylon, Virgin Daughter of Babylon, The Roman Empire revived, okay, North America. And upon her princes and upon her wise men. Who are the wise men? You so-called, you elites, man. Rothschilds, DuPonts, Gettys, okay? Oppenheimers. All you Morgans, you elites. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dot. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. Okay? A sword is upon the liars. Who are the liars, according to the Bible? You Edomites. Let's read it. This is Psalms chapter 58. In verse 3, the wicked. Who is the wicked? Malachi 1, 3, and 4. The wicked are Edomites. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. So, let's read another verse to further prove that point. Job 13 and 4, and it reads, but ye are forgers of lies, ye are all physicians of no value. What is a physician? What does the word doctor mean? To falsify, man. Okay, lies. So going back to Jeremiah 50 and 35, Jeremiah 50 and 36, a sword is upon the liars, and they shall dot, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. So who is the liars? You Edomites, man. You so-called white people. Hey, man, the Lord got y'all in a trick bag, man. Okay? And you got Edomites like this guy here, Tom Hartman, who's bringing straight facts out, man. Facts. That North America is finished, man. It is done. It's on its last toe. Okay? It ain't even on its last leg, man. It's on the last toe, man. This coming is finished. The grinding is ceasing, man. Everything is coming to naught. It's the Lord's will to be edifying. Gotta give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rekah, Qurash. The honors to the apostle and elders, the great millstone, who rule well, who teach well, in a sincere salutation to all I can pushing this truth at the four ends of the earth, waking up the hope for the elect. Now, I want to read this again, because going back to Jeremiah 51 in verse 25, behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord, which destroyeth all the earth, which is you Edomites, and I will stretch out my hand upon thee and roll thee down from the rocks and will make thee a burnt mountain. How is the Lord going to do that? With missiles. This is Jeremiah 59. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations. It said great nations, meaning their military is going to be so advanced, okay, so advanced, surpassing you North American Edomites weaponry. An assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And the Chaldeans shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Because ye were glad, because ye rejoice, O ye destroyers of my heritage. Which you destroy who? The so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, man. The Hebrew Israelites. Because ye are grown fat as a heifer at grass, and bellows as bulls. Your mother shall be so confounded, meaning Britain, okay, Great Britain. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Hey, so North America, Edomites, you are about to be taken out by other Edomites. Starting with who? The North Country, which is who, man? The Russians. Okay? Russia, North Korea, Iran, China. They finna wipe you devils off the map, man. Because your sins have reached into the heavens, man. And you have touched the apple of the Lord's eye, which is these Hebrew Israelites, man. So-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, man. You have touched the Lord's people, and you're about to be destroyed, man. Okay? Thus saith the Lord, man. And so with that, Shalom.